United States operation to capture Nicolás Maduro worked flawlessly. And if you woke up wondering why something so big was over so fast, here are 10 reasons why it was a
flawless victory.
1. Absolute technological dominance. You see, Venezuela made the mistake, and I use that word lightly, of relying on Chinese radar systems that were supposedly capable of detecting even American stealth aircraft. Layered on top of that were Chinese and Russian air defenses, as well as manpads, basically stingers, and enough ground forces to make any conventional assault an absolute slog. Essentially, the plan was to make so much pain the United States would never even attempt to attack them in the first place. And on paper, sure, anything we sent in should have been detected and destroyed, or at least damaged in the process. But their great planning had one critical flaw. Those radars were expensive and predictable. All the United States had to do was to send in EA-18G Growlers, which are supersonic capable electronic warfare aircraft, and jam those radars, and then fire anti-radiation missiles, or ARMs, that home in on sources of radar. Yeah, you can see where this is going. Once those systems were destroyed, Venezuela had no idea what was coming, and that would explain why we have this nice footage of helicopters just flying in, doing whatever they wanted to do. Yeah, our Chinooks and Blackhawks had free range of the skies in, like, seconds. The only remaining threat, after the radar was down, was small arms fire, and, for the most part, our built-in countermeasures made handheld tracking weapons completely useless, especially since it was at night. In short, even with all of Venezuela's great planning, they never had a chance against the United States military. 2. Total intelligence penetration. The United States clearly knew every detail of Maduro's compound. Keep in mind, his house or safe house was in the middle of a military base in the capital. So after getting past the ground forces and the radar, they had to then get to the base, and on top of that, get to the safe house, break into the safe house, and extract Maduro before he get to the safe room inside the safe house. We worked fast. In fact, according to Reuters, Delta Force created an exact replica of Maduro's safe house and practiced how they would enter the strongly fortified residence. They go on to say that the CIA had teams and assets on the ground that gave updates on Maduro's habits in daily life, and that they knew exactly where Maduro was when Operation Absolute Resolve began, which kind of makes sense. You wouldn't go in and get someone that you don't know where they are. Imagine playing hide and go seek at night in Venezuela. ¿Cómo? And the third reason this was an absolute success is because the United States had 0 losses. But think what that implies. No loss of American life, no lost aircraft, no equipment failures. In fact, I think I saw somewhere that the United States assessment of how many enemy combatants we had taken out was about 75. 75 to 0. That was the score. Plus Maduro. Absolute across the board victory. Think about this. It suggests that finally, our commanders were given extraordinary latitude to execute the mission without political micromanagement. But this also raises an uncomfortable question. How often could the United States have ended conflicts like this and just chosen not to? 4. Yes, oil. Let's be honest. For all of human history, controlling power and resources has always mattered. So anytime people come up and say, "Oh, war was just about oil," I'm so smart, it's not really an assessment. You haven't even gotten to first base. Most wars are about land, petty disagreements, projection of power, and resources. So saying it's about resources is just like saying, "Wow, I saw a war. It was about war."
Clap, clap, clap.
But as with most wars, it wasn't just about oil. It was about removing hostile power influences from our hemisphere. In the last decade, Maduro had gone beyond just trafficking drugs and people. He had gone beyond just being a narco-terrorist state and shipping their problems to our country. No, he was in the process of making himself a client state of both China and Russia. In fact, Venezuela had invited China's notorious Belt and Road Initiative into South America and was joining them in China's attempt to box the United States out of regional resources and our own region. In fact, as far as oil is concerned, China was actually Venezuela's largest purchaser of oil, buying roughly 470,000 barrels a day, again, according to Reuters. But although that only equated to about 4% of what China pulled in yearly, this alignment with a power that we essentially have an ongoing Cold War with was what sealed his fate. Going in and grabbing Maduro and cutting off that energy supply to China forced a realignment, and it sent a message. Either Venezuelan oil goes to us, or it doesn't go out at all. And that brings me to point number 5. It was a message to China without actually firing at China. The United States has absolute impunity to act anywhere at any time, and their cute stolen technology will not save China or any of their allies. We will jam it, shut it down, blow it up, and do what we want anyway. Now, lest people get confused, some people think demonstrations of power mean that we want to start a war, but that's not the case. We're trying to prevent wars from happening in the first place. And sometimes, in order to do so, you have to just show them what's up. For instance, if you saw Mike Tyson or Terry Crews in the street, and you're looking for a quick buck, you wouldn't run up to them and try to snatch their cell phone and run away. Not only would you probably not even be able to take the cell phone out of their hands, either one would just instantly flatten you. The risk is not worth the reward.
Nope.
In fact, you might not even try sticking them up even if you had a weapon, because you know if you miss or don't hit them hard enough, you're gonna wish they didn't use their fists.
Grab your hand.
So let's apply that same concept to China. China tends to avoid high-risk military decisions, and nothing raises that risk like watching a quasi-ally get yanked out of his own country before people could even wake up to react. Oh, and by the way, China had a delegation on the ground in Venezuela, in Caracas, when the United States came in and took out Maduro. In fact, they had just finished meeting with Maduro several hours before that. Now, Trump says that they were just waiting for the perfect weather pattern, but let's be real. The timing on this is just too perfect. So in the context of potential Chinese action against Taiwan, that says you probably want to think twice about that. 6. Let's bring it back home to Venezuela itself. This makes a real chance for Venezuela. Most of the outrage hasn't come from Venezuelans themselves. It's come from either Western commentators or agitators that are all ready to champion any anti-Western cause.
We're independent thinkers. Roger, 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 roger.
And the fact is, Maduro ruled through repression and fear, jailing and murdering his political opponents, rigging elections, and having him removed gives Venezuela something it hasn't had in years: hope and a genuine opportunity to actually have reform, or even a small step towards that. Now, whether they're able to take that will be up to them. And ideally, the Trump administration continues to try to guide them along that path. But one thing is for certain, apart from Maduro's most loyal sycophants, he won't be missed by the people who actually had to live and endure under his rule. 7. 8 million Venezuelans might finally go home. That's right. 8 million Venezuelans fled the country as a result of societal collapse, oppression, and economic depression. And if even a fraction of those return, that eases refugee pressure inside the region, including inside the United States, and that allows families to actually go back home and rebuild their lives in their original country of origin. It's not imperialism and colonialism, as some might say, but neither is it an infinite slush fund from organizations like USAID, just sending money through NGOs over to foreign governments and hoping that somehow things will be fixed. This is an actual, practical, potentially stabilizing move. It does the thing that the left always says that the right doesn't do. It tries to fix the problems in our own hemisphere. 8. Speaking of stabilizing forces, Maduro's reign of terror had already collapsed Venezuela. So continuing on the previous point, this gives Venezuela an opportunity to stabilize and actually go towards the path of being a better country. It wasn't like Iraq, where it was a previously stable country that got intervened, because under Nicolás Maduro, Venezuela had become a textbook narco state. Political opposition was jailed or disappeared in the night. There is no independent media, and protesters were often met with live fire. Or in one video that I can't show you, Maduro's military simply started running over protesters, because who's going to stop them? And as a result of mismanagement and corruption, Venezuela had severe hyperinflation. Areas ran out of power, food shortages were rampant, and children starved all across a country that had some of the largest oil reserves on the planet. They should be wealthy and prosperous, but in reality, Maduro didn't govern. He didn't help his people. And by the time Operation Absolute Resolve came around, it was an attempt to actually solve a festering wound in the continent of South America. 9. With the removal of Maduro, Russia lost one of its biggest proxies in the Western Hemisphere. Arms sales, mercenaries, intelligence cooperations. All this was meant to just create friction for the United States at minimal risk to Russia. In the age of proxy wars where the big powers don't actually ever declare war against each other, but have tons of small little conflicts that annoy each other and cause us to drain resources, having a burr in the saddle in our own hemisphere would be a constant source of pain, money drain, and frustration. But without Maduro, that proxy is gone, because unlike the island of Cuba, Venezuela was never contained. Or as the Moscow Times puts it, with Maduro gone, Putin risks being pushed out of the Western Hemisphere. So yes, I'd say that was a success. And finally, 10. There was no war.
Peace. Yes. War. No. Never, never war. Approved.
Hello there.
As I said earlier, we lost no troops, no equipment. There was no occupation, no quagmire, no crazed nation-building fantasy contrived in the Middle East. We achieved multiple objectives simultaneously and left. And even Donald Trump was blunt about it. The United States is officially returning to the Monroe Doctrine, or as he likes to put it, the Donroe Doctrine.
This is about the national interest of the United States. The alternative would have been to leave Maduro there as an indicted, illegitimate president, running the country, open invitation for all of our adversaries to do whatever they want against the United States from Venezuela. That was not going to continue.
In plain English, what the Monroe Doctrine means is simple. China, Russia, Iran, or any other hostile actor need to get their hands out of our hemisphere. The era of building client states, narco regimes, of proxy footholds in the Americas, and stealing our resources from underneath us is over. These are our Americas. Now, I don't know how the world's going to respond to this, but for the first time in a long time, the message was clear. America can still act decisively. It just took a president willing to stop playing games and actually make some tough decisions. Because the craziest thing about all of this, from Iraq to Afghanistan and all the little conflicts that we've dealt with over the years, the United States has always had the ability to win. We've just chosen not to. But that's it for today's Balanced Take. Agree or disagree? Has Donald Trump violated international law, or are the Venezuelan people just a little freer than they were before? Let me know what you think. Hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!